Sparks with Saima. Today, we are diving into the ocean's greatest secret with our amazing guest, David Hunter, the founder of Global Phytoplankton. Nearly 20 years ago, he uncovered the remarkable potential of the ocean's tiniest plants, phytoplankton, not just as a base of the marine food chain, but as a direct key to human wellness and cellular vitality. This conversation will explore discovery, sustainability, and how nature's smallest life forms can spark the greatest transformation. David, welcome to the show.
Yeah. Hey, thank you so much for having me here. This is great.
You're warmly welcome. It's my pleasure to have you here. So, David, can you take us back? Like, what was it? What was that moment like when you first discovered the potential of phytoplankton for human health?
Yeah. Well, it was definitely very life changing. And I think that, a lot of people have that aha moment, as they call it, when their life purpose hits them in their face. And you either decide to go for it or, probably painfully ignore it. And that happened to me in 2005. So to give you I just had my 20-year anniversary of this event. Happened in July of this year. And so now 50 years old, and this happened to me when I was 32. So yeah, yeah, a big part of my life for sure. And it all started on Vancouver Island, the west coast of Canada. And I was working at a shellfish farm that was cultivating marine phytoplankton for shellfish food. The unique selling proposition of using marine phytoplankton for shellfish food is that the shellfish were 2.5 times bigger than regular shellfish that were on traditional commercial feed. And I got hired as a sales and marketing consultant by a gentleman named Tom, his story is that he had mesothelioma, which is a lung cancer induced by asbestos exposure. And he was expected to die within about 9 months, and he wanted to put some sales and marketing systems in place for his family. Now, which was, is very deep and task, but, I was up for the challenge to do this because I was, very competent to be able to do that. And while I started to work for him, he started to eat the marine phytoplankton as a joke. Okay. And so we'll talk a little bit more about the marine phytoplankton. It's the first food on the planet. It's the beginning of life. When the sun penetrates the surface of the ocean, these microscopic phytoplankton are born out of pretty much immaculate conception. And he found a way to grow it into a tank to make the invisible visible, because they're 1.2 microns average size, which is a third the size of a blood cell. So just give you some thing. And he was able to put it into a tank and condense them, so then he could grow it and then feed it to the shellfish. So as he was feeding the shellfish, he started to eat it himself, kind of as a joke. And we're like, dude, that's totally weird. And he's like, well, I got nothing to lose. I like dolls, I do this. So anyway, he made this daily habit of eating the phytoplankton while he was feeding his shellfish. A couple of weeks later, he came up to me and he said, hey, I got something really weird to tell you. My blood sugar is normal for the first time in I don't know how long. And I'm a type 1 diabetic, not a type 2, but a type 1. Like, we're talking needles. Mm-hmm. And we were like, our reaction was that we couldn't believe that cancer medication would work for diabetes. That was our default talking point around the coffee shop, right? And so, but he's like, yeah, I feel really good. I'm feeling better than, normal. Well, he had to go into the Royal Jubilee Hospital in Victoria, British Columbia for what is called a talking treatment, because the response of the cancer in his lungs is water. And then what happens is that, if the water keeps going into the lungs, well, then they drown. So they have this operation kind of in the middle of the stages of cancer to stop that from happening. Well, when he went into the operation, he had a cotton white substance along the pleural lining of his lungs, and they didn't do the operation, but ended up sending him home. And so he was actually at work, and we thought that he wasn't going to be there for a while. And the hospital called and back a few days later and were very confused, and they didn't know what was going on, but there was absolutely zero cancer in his body, which was pretty much never seen before, because mesothelioma is usually a death sentence. And so, and I don't know how it happened. I don't know how this got out, but his recovery made the front page of the local newspaper. So, I mean, we're talking front page with a picture and everything. The title is Man Believes Plankton Stopped His Rare Cancer. So you can imagine our phone lines, like you think it was a Black Friday sale. Like we had hundreds of phone calls come in from desperate people from all walks of life, including Washington State, in the United States, to come up to the sea farm on an island to pick up some phytoplankton based on this newspaper article. Now, so all of a sudden I come into work. I don't even know that this is in the newspaper. The phones are ringing like a Christmas tree, and I'm picking up the phone and we're just getting all these people that want to come by. And Tom just said, well, let's just give it to them for free. And, he thinks it helped them. So, he wants to help them. So we gave hundreds and hundreds of people this for free. Okay. So, like my mom had worked in the hospital. So like, I had a little bit of experience with this, but it was very kind of painful and hard, like the stories of desperation that people have when they're sick. And we're not just talking cancer, we're talking fibromyalgia, Crohn's colitis, like skin issues, whatever. They were coming in from a multitude of different things. So we gave this away for like hundreds of people. And then I started to eat the phytoplankton myself. And I had a life-changing experience in a short period of time. And what happened to me is pretty much instantly, I had this energy and mental clarity that like I still have trouble describing because I still have it today, but like it was very bright, it was deep, it was calm, it was peaceful, very measurable. And I just like had like all of a sudden any kind of fatigue or any energy issues I had completely disappeared. I had this long-term candida rash in between my legs for I don't know how long, completely disappeared within 4 days. I used to have really bad allergies and nasal drip and have to blow my nose all the time. That completely went away. And the big thing that happened to me, like the biggest out of all those, is that I used to be a long-term chronic migraine headache sufferer. I used to get very, very bad migraines about 2 times a week. That would be completely debilitating. That started in high school and was continuing on until my third. And of a sudden after a couple of weeks, I'm like, hey, I haven't had a migraine headache like for a while. Like, and I haven't had a migraine headache since 2005. So now I'm having this experience as well, going, holy smokes, I feel great. Like, what is this stuff? And then, but where my life changed, like, so 2 things happened basically simultaneously. A month later, all these people came back and they had lights in their eyes, some of them in tears of joy, telling me that they are completely transformed and transforming. And they were talking about like their long-term health issues completely disappearing. Okay. And or almost completely disappearing, but a lot of them was completely disappearing, and talking about this energy and mental clarity that I was experiencing. Plus, of course, I had a healing as well. So I was very in tune with what they were saying, and it was the most heartwarming thing I've ever experienced, just to see these people get better from this phytoplankton looking to pick up summer. There's a lot of hugs given out, I tell you that. And so now I've experienced this, and we're not talking 3 or 4 people coming back here, okay? Like we're talking hundreds coming back. And so this gentleman named Dr. Bob Rowe from Qualicum Beach, British Columbia, which kind of like a holistic doctor / chiropractor, comes in, and he's super excited about what he's seen because he's seen this with his patients. And this is where my life changed, where we were talking and he said, Dave, he goes, I think Tom accidentally discovered the holy grail of nutrition. He goes, just think about it. Marine phytoplankton is the first food on the planet. It is the genesis of life, food, and nutrition on the planet. The sun penetrates the surface of the ocean. This plant life is formed, and inside these plants are like the omegas, vitamin C, beta carotene, all the B vitamins, selenium, magnesium, potassium, antioxidants, carotenoids, all these. He goes, these are the building blocks of life in its original true form. Phytoplankton nourishes the entire ocean, including the whales. And he goes, what I think is going on, because it's so small, is that like the root cause of a lot of sickness and health issues is malnourishment from the food, because especially here in North America, the food is compromised and people are just not being nourished. So then health issues pop up because it's the law of cause and effect. And he said he thinks what is going on is that inside every human cell is an engine called the mitochondria. That is the main driving force of signaling, of energy production, and everything comes from the engine of the cell called the mitochondria. He thinks is what's going on is people have like a plugged up or a not properly working mitochondria. Then all of a sudden they introduce the phytoplankton into the cell and directly into the mitochondria, which is basically the perfect food, and the body actually recognizes it because it's the source and fires up the mitochondria. And the firing up is energy production starts to happen. It can kick out all the nasty stuff. The cell signaling, they start to talk to each other. The cells talk to each other, and the immune system, that's maybe like because a lot of these things were what's called an autoimmune disease. Well, that's the immune system like working against the body. And he said then all of a sudden now it's nourished. So now the immune system actually gets modulated and can talk, and there's communication now talking between the cells, and there's detox going on, there's nourishment going on, and immune system signaling going on, which then basically makes sense about these autoimmune things reversing in such a short period of time. And he goes, I just think that you guys discovered the holy grail of nutrition. He goes, I can't believe that the first food, the foundation of nutrition, was completely over. And I think it was that moment my light switch came on, and I said, you know what? If this is going to solve such massive problems for people and they're going to feel so good, like this is my calling in life. Like my mom had passed away from cancer when I was 20 in 1993. That still has scars today. And I'm like, I know what it's like to see a loved one get sick and to die. And, after my mom passed away, my dad had a broken heart and he passed away a few days or a few years later, and I've seen the damage that happens, like when something's kind of preventable. And, yeah, I think that was kind of my motivating factor. I'm like, I saw enough, like this is legit. And so, I dedicated my life. The reason why I live on the east coast of Canada now is because it's a lot cheaper to live here than in Vancouver, because I had to invest pretty much everything that I had to get all the regulatory approvals in Canada and the United States for this to be a dietary ingredient food supplement. And we launched it. I named it after my mom, Karen. It was called Karen Phytoplankton. We launched it in Canada, and we sold hundreds of thousands of units, have like tens of thousands of anecdotes of people like getting way better. We were like known as the best reviewed supplement in Canada, had a crazy growth curve, and now we're in the United States, and we're just, on podcasts like this to, this is not it's new kinda, but it's not that new. And it's been sold for quite a while in Canada. It's now just starting in the US, where we've got all this established. And just on podcasts like this, just let people know that, if you have a sickness, the root cause might be you're just missing something in the nutritional pyramid, and phytoplankton is pure nutrition and the first food on the planet. So the law of cause and effect can basically just work itself into your body and be like, if you're missing something and your body receives it, the body has the ability to heal itself. And that's the message.
David, that's incredible to hear. Like the way you describe that moment really helps us feel the excitement and significance of what you discovered. And again, it's really inspiring to imagine you realizing the potential impact phytoplankton could have on human health. And it gives us a deeper appreciation for the passion driving your work, I would say.
For sure. Well, I tell you what, when your job is basically talking to people on the phone saying that they took your product and like they can hold their grandkid again because they can pick up their grandchild, or they can stand up and like go walk and go to their kid's baseball game or whatever again, you know, when they couldn't, or like, the pain has been eliminated or something. That's been, not a bad job to have, it's, I never get tired of it. And, but it's not easy, right? Like a lot of people are like, well, if this was so good, how come I haven't heard about it, kind of thing. And it's just more of those things is like, when you're pioneering something, it takes time, you have a business to run, there's money involved. You can't just spend $1 billion and throw it on every news station in the world, like you have to grind it out. And we're still grinding it out, but people are starting to take notice. It's getting bigger all the time. And, it's good. And I think one thing I'll just share with you too, because one of the biggest things I've got, because I've done a lot of pharmacy conferences and things like that, and people go, well, how can you be saying this? Who is this guy? Like, you don't even have any science. They'll go, put me in that box, right? And trying to corner me in that. Well, number one, there is now science, because that was, we're starting to, everything is showing that everything, like, there's some signaling effects and there's things going on when people phytoplankton. We're proving the anecdotes, but I always used to tell them, which, they used to accept, is to be like, is there science on B vitamins? They're like, yeah. Is there science on selenium and potassium and magnesium? That's good for the body. Yes. Vitamin C for the immune system. Yes. Omegas for brain health and heart health. Yes. Well, these are all present in marine phytoplankton in its original pure form. I did not formulate this. This was the base food that was overlooked. So if all these vitamins and minerals and antioxidants, if we all agree that they're good for the human body, and they all have science on them to say that they're good, and it's $1 billion industry of people buying supplements trying to get better, well, why is what I'm saying so out of whack? I like literally took the first food, the Mother Nature's original multivitamin that everybody overlooked, and I got it approved to be in the food chain, and people are getting results. So if people are malnourished, doesn't it make sense that the pure nutrition, the first food, would be the first thing that you would try? It just wasn't available before. Right? It could be a real disruptor, because even our accounting firm, we use Deloitte, which is one of the big 5 accounting firms. They told me every year that they can't believe the amount of people that come back for this product. Like, that we just have the highest lifetime customer value that they had ever seen. It's like our customers are like a family, because obviously if you help them in a profound way, they get to like you, right? And that's what our business is built on. It's built on repeat business and helping people get better. And it's, you know, I still can't get over that I'm the only guy like still pioneering this, but hey, if that's my lot in life, I'll accept it.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, David. Now, if phytoplankton, became a household name tomorrow, how do you think it would reshape the way we view health and longevity?
Well, I think it would be a massive disruption for sure, because a lot of things people will realize if people put a foundation under their health, like, I don't think that there's going to be as much sickness in the world. So what would that do to other industries, right? So there would be an industry shift, there would be a wealth transfer. Also growing phytoplankton. So, like, the other thing that I'll say is that we don't take the phytoplankton from the ocean. We actually get it, but we get the original heirloom seed that has been isolated, and it grows on itself. So our particular phytoplankton is not a male or a female. It's called like a unisex organism. So it doesn't need a male or a female to reproduce. You just give it some sunlight and some CO2, and it reproduces itself. But like, when we grow it, it actually produces oxygen. Like, that is our exhaust, is pure oxygen. And then when we're done like harvesting the phytoplankton that we grew, like, so we grew more of it, then it goes into the ocean. So there's a sustainability aspect of it. So for an example, like krill, these omega-3 krill oils that are really popular right now. Well, these are diesel vessels in the ocean scooping up krill and then putting them through a squisher and getting this krill oil so we can have our omega-3s. Well, the krill eat the phytoplankton. So that would, like, just for an example, like, if people knew about this, they would never buy krill oil again. And these diesel vessels wouldn't have to be up there scooping the krill out of, like, which is a food source for the ocean. They wouldn't have to do that, right? Like, because the omega-3s come from phytoplankton. You'd want it vegan and you want the original source, right? And so just like things like that, right? Or like multivitamins. Well, this is Mother Nature's multivitamin. Like, would you rather have a multivitamin full of sugar and food coloring? And I'm talking North America here, that you give to your kid that's got maltodextrin in them, that's going to spike their blood sugar. The vitamins and minerals in these cartoon character multivitamins, the quality of them is circumspect at best. right? Because if it's $14.99, well, the cost of goods is probably only $3. So like, you're given this and they put sugar in it to make the kids eat it. Well, that's not a multivitamin. Let's be real. Like, you just want to give your kid some like piece of candy, or do you want, you get better and you give people a foundational, like this is like, again, by phytoplankton being in the industry, this is giving everybody a foundation. I really think it would create a whole new economy. It would be a lot of things that are subpar would die and maybe transfer. Maybe they would invest in phytoplankton, grow their own phytoplankton, and I'm okay with that. I think that that's my role. I don't think my role is to be the next Jeff Bezos and, be a trillionaire. I don't care about that. Like, if my purpose in life, because I'm 52, I've still got gas in the tank. If my purpose is just to get people to learn about what phytoplankton can actually do to a human and a pet body, because also dogs and cats do really well with it as well, and it sparks off this thing, and that's my role in life, I'm okay with that. I just want to see people get better at this point in my life.
First of all, like, thank you for clarifying that, David, that, perspective really reframes how we think about it. And by highlighting that phytoplankton isn't tied to any gender, like as you said, or any category, you're opening a much broader and more inclusive way to look at health and longevity, I must say. And it's again a really powerful reminder that those benefits are universal and not limited by labels or demographics.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? At the end of the day, we're all human beings. We're all like we're all cut from the same cloth, from the source, right? And at the end of the day, we might have a different skin color or be from somewhere else on the planet or whatever. But at the end of the day, we all have the same emotion of happiness, sadness, love, joy, like we all have those same emotions. Maybe maybe we look at them differently or we process them differently. But at the end of the day, like it's the same. And so what I like about it is, yeah, it's doesn't matter, where you're from in the world. The phytoplankton and the nutrition in phytoplankton is universal, and that's actually even shown with dogs and cats. We started teamed up with a vet here in Canada, a very well-known vet, and she seen what I was doing for humans. And she's been giving phytoplankton to cats and dogs, and I tell you what, like it's also very heartwarming because pets can give us a lot of joy as well. And, if you have a dog that's, say, like a senior dog and his back hips are going, because that kind of seems to happen to dogs when they get a certain age. And then all of a sudden they bounce back and they're running around and you have them for a few more years and their quality of life is better. Well, that just transcends everything. It just goes to show you that, because also too, the phytoplankton supports the krill, it supports the whales and the salmon. And then the birds also eat the fish as well, right? So it's universal. And a lot of people don't know phytoplankton is the most abundant plant life on Earth and produces the majority of the oxygen we breathe. So they say around 60 to 70% of the oxygen in every breath you take comes from phytoplankton, right? We're completely surrounded by it. So there's, like if you just read the tea leaf and you just think about what phytoplankton is and what it supports and what it does, it just makes sense, right? And I always you talk about being ironic. It's the simplest things that are overlooked most of the time.
Absolutely, yes. Now that feels like that bigger picture, I must say, recognizing that nature has always been the first and most profound healer.
Yeah, 100%. There's a saying that you don't get a headache because you're missing ibuprofen in your body.
Now that's
There's
really,
just something
and
else.
yeah, please continue.
No, I'm just saying, yeah, like usually, a headache is just you're out of balance, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just your brain telling you to say, hey, I'm missing something, like, but it could be water. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's natural too, right? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, I've got a headache. Oh, maybe you're dehydrated, right? And it's a natural compound that's missing that needs to be introduced so then your body can get to homeostasis, and vitamins and minerals are, like I said, they're universal, whether you're eating a steak or you're eating a salad or whatever it might be, or even fast food. Your body it has to go in your stomach and your body has to do something with it, right? So it's the quality of that, but that determines, how good you feel. But that where phytoplankton comes in is that it has everything. It probably has something in there that we don't even know. And, but the body can recognize it. That's for sure. I know that. I know that much. I've seen too much.
No, no, that absolutely makes sense. And that was really remarkable, David. Like, that was an eye opening conversation, which showed us that sometimes the smallest things in nature carry the biggest answers for our future. From sustaining the planet to strengthening ourselves, phytoplankton offers us a vision of health that is both ancient and revolutionary. So, listeners, if today sparks something in you, carry it forward, nurture your body, honor the earth, and remember, wellness begins at the very source of life.